about to go live here. All right, we're inside of Facebook, so welcome everybody. Good afternoon. And we're here to talk about the ugly truth of real estate investing in 2023. So I hope you guys are excited about that. I was just kind of joking around with my Growth Collective clients about that and saying that it's kind of a funny title, but not sure exactly why you're here, but I know that the goal hopefully is to do some more real estate investing. And if you're in the wrong room, no sweat, or if you're in the wrong place, you could just politely excuse yourself out the side, no big deal. Like I tell folks, it's not for everybody. If you get upset that we sent the message or sent an email, no sweat, but there's also that little button that says unsubscribe. So we want to make sure that we're serving the right people. So, just a little bit ago, we had our private coaching call. We had a lot of great conversation with a couple of our clients and just really enjoy having those deeper dives. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to jointhegrowthcollective.com to learn more about how that works in our private coaching and mastermind group. I have my assistant here, London, my daughter, in the side. So you might see her taking some notes. The boys are right now doing some stuff in the other room, so staying busy out there. And then I'm going to ask that the folks inside the Zoom stay on mute for now, unless you have a question. The best way to do that would be put up your hand and let me know you have a question, and use the chat to put question into the chat. So really the intention today, first off, I guess while you're on Facebook Live, if you hear me on the Facebook Live, we got another guest. Okay, buddy, come on and say hello, everybody. Okay, we're talking on a live right now, baby. I love you, but we have to go back to the meeting. Okay, this is Jude. Say hi to Jude. There's Jude. All right, we're gonna go now, buddy. Okay, thanks, buddy. Brother, good job. Close the door. There's Jacob. He's got his hair. Okay, buddy. We're doing. Close the door. Thank you. People want to hear about real estate. Okay. All right. So we're going to be talking about real estate investing, but I want to kind of hear from the Facebook group and also the Growth Collective. I know where you guys are, but I'm going to kind of shout you out if you want to go ahead and put in the chat kind of where you're based out of and what you're focusing on. I'm going to do a quick couple shout outs also on Facebook Live. So if you all want to put a note about where you're tuning in from on Facebook and what you're focusing on, maybe anything you want to share about what brought you here, that'd be awesome. I'll go ahead and read some of those comments. I'm going to kind of monitor the comment feed. Let's see if I can do that without it echoing. Let's see. I think this is right. There we go. What's up, Lou? I see you there. Long time no see, man. Definitely got to catch up real soon. Appreciate you being here. And then would love to learn more about what you got going on, man. It's been a bit. It's been a couple of years, more than a couple of years, probably a few years. So it's awesome to see your name pop up. I see Lou's on Facebook. I know we have Jenny and Glenn in the room. We have Wendy in New Brunswick, Canada. Jasmine was here a little bit ago. She's up in New York. Glenn and Jenny are down here in Sarasota. And then we got Joe in New Jersey. Mo is on our team as well. And Suzanne, they're actually two of our offshore team members and in another country right now listening to us. So pretty cool to have you here. That's kind of part of what I want to talk about today, actually, is that, I think in 2023, let's be real, think about it. Just a few years ago, we were going through a worldwide pandemic. And I mean, whether we want to believe that or not, that we had to deal with some really challenging things as far as lockdowns and inability to get out and do stuff and be able to look at properties or get things done on properties, and dealing with township delays and contractor delays, and people had COVID and people knew people had COVID, people passed away, all kinds of stuff. We're just starting, at least in my life, I don't know how you guys are, but we're just kind of starting to settle down, as far as the world, it's been a few years and there's still stuff going on. There's always going to be stuff going on around us that could distract us or cause us to be not having the kind of success that we want. Could you say so, Smitty? And so we had to think about, kind of how do we adapt in this new world, this new 2023 of real estate investing? We had to think about the fact is, I know when we started in 2014, there was not deals flying off the shelf, but there was more deals, at least at that time, it seemed like, than what's happened. And now it's we're having to reinvent our focus of how we source deals. So I know when I first started, it was pretty much go out there, and talk to sellers off market, whether it be cold calling or sending out mail or knocking on doors, or what are we going to do to get deals? And frankly, just in our world, we haven't really focused much on that. And so what I want to focus on, what I'd encourage you all to focus on, is the concept of collaboration. So really that's kind of the punchline for today, is how do we adapt? We have to think about less about competition and more about collaboration. Okay. So when you need something, whether it be a deal or capital or construction help or just whatever, you have to think who do I know not what do I know, because what you know is limited and you can learn more and do more. But if you find someone who's already doing it, right, and it's not just me or my team, it's not just somebody sitting in this room right now. It's really people in your local market that are already doing stuff successfully as real estate people, real estate investors, real estate agents, like whatever is the thing that you're focusing on growing the most. Predominantly real estate investing is what I think most people are here to do. But like, who already has the deals? Like, if you already have a deal, well, then you should be talking to people that want to buy those deals, obviously. But what about the people that have a connection or a friend or a buddy that wants to buy that deal? Would you be open to having that conversation? But maybe you don't know who that person is. So how do you find that individual? Well, with technology the way it is, and the fact is, like, we're not just going out to networking events. I've been to a few recently, and I go to one every Friday. But really, in the beginning, I was going to two or three every week, and there was that many to go to. Just recently, there's starting to be more of that in-person networking. But again, 2023, and this might be uglier for some of you than others, like as far as what it is that you have to do to be a successful real estate investor. You have to be willing to go into social media like you're doing right now and connect with people who you haven't met before and find ways of standing out and find ways of adding value and really finding where you're the weakest and where someone has the strength that you need to be able to do what you need to do. So not just in the most simplest form is like make those connections, and that's something we talk a lot about again in the Growth Collective, and we see that successfully our clients are having that success connecting with folks inside the group, connecting with us, obviously connecting with our resources, our connections, capital and deals and all kinds of stuff and consulting and coaching. On top of all that, though, I mean, the fact is, like, what about construction, right? Let's talk about construction for a second. So rewind back pre-COVID, you know, project that might cost, let's say 60 grand to complete during COVID might not have been even possible to do, first off. But if it was possible, it might have cost 90 to 120K to get that same project done. And it'd be that much more difficult to source the contractors to get that done because the cost of materials went up, labor got shrunken down, people had challenges finding people to do the work. Now down here in Florida, we do a lot of business in New Jersey, but we're also in Florida. We have challenges with builders kind of absorbing all of the construction people that we want to use for our projects. So now we have to compete with some of the bigger builders in this state and in this country. So depending on what you're doing as a real estate investor, you have to consider, again, the concept of supply and demand, economics. So like there's less supply of homes than that we want to buy. We want to buy a lot of homes. You guys want to buy homes, buy properties, buy buildings, but the supply is limited, right? So we have to adapt to that. We have to think about who has the supply. Same thing for construction. If I say, well, I can't get the right labor because the builders are doing, work on properties or building houses or building townhouses or building apartments, and they're taking all that labor away from me. That's one way of looking at it. But why don't you say, who do I know in my market who actually is doing renovation projects already that can potentially give me a referral? Where is the local RIA? Can I go into, for example, the Sarasota RIA, which I just attended a meeting yesterday with some of our clients here and also other people. And I know that there's connections in that group that have construction background, right? There's people like doing projects. So again, the underpinning here is like collaboration, conversations, right? I want to make sure this is interactive though. So if you guys have a question, both the Growth Collective members and also folks in the room, you could use the chat or the comment feature depending upon where you're sitting. If you're inside of Facebook, you could use the comment feature. If you're inside of the Zoom meeting, you could obviously just put a chat comment or question. But essentially, think of it like this. When you feel weak, it should be a question of not what do I need to figure out, but it's more about who do I need to call? Who can I speak to? And if you don't have the who, then that's where we start. We start about making connections. Connect with some of the who's, the connections we need to make so that they have what you already want. And so we're excited to say that we have a lot of what you guys might want or need. We have, as JDL Ventures and the Growth Collective and the Real Estate Investing Mastermind, we have a lot of great connections. We have a lot of great experience, and we share resources, capital, right? We have KPRE Capital now, right? If you guys haven't heard, like, it's official. I'm managing partner of a fund with my buddy Phil, and we're business partners. We're helping deploy capital in projects across multiple states and multiple markets for real estate investment deals. And so if you need capital, you could check out realdirectlending.com, submit a request there, learn more about our process. But essentially, it's likely that's going to come through KPRE, and we're going to help you fund the deal. If you need help with deals, right, we have a team for wholesale deals. We're going to be talking about that, today a little bit about some of the opportunities that are available. Essentially, We have stuff in Florida and New Jersey, and we have stuff percolating in other markets as well. But if you need deal flow, we have that to bring. We bring that to our Growth Collective clients first, and then we bring it to the rest of the group that we have as far as the real estate investing mastermind and also our email list. So if you need deal flow, let us know. You could email sales@jdlventures.com, or you could just get in touch with our team, via phone or through a text. That works too. So if you have our information, if you don't, you can send me a DM on Facebook, even if you want some deals. Whatever you're looking for, we have a connection probably that can help you, but it just depends on how specific and how localized that is, right? And that's the story for today is like, when things get tough, it's not okay for you to go sit in a box and kind of like, wait for something to happen. You got to be willing to have a conversation about it. You have to be willing to step up and step out of the situation and say, who can I reach out to? Who can I call? Right? Who can I ask for some help from? All right. So on that note, I'm going to read through some comments here. So I see Michael's here. Good afternoon. Lens says dope. Gets great. He put the link there. Excellent. Appreciate that. Joe's in the room on Facebook as well. Let me ask you guys a question. What are some of the challenges you're facing right now? I'm curious, as real estate investors, where do you feel the weakest right now? Just be willing to share on a message at least. If not, if you're on the Zoom meeting, you're welcome to share audio. But really, just chat about like let's talk about a specific challenge, a specific issue you're facing in your business, and let's see if we can kind of address it. Anybody in Facebook or on the Zoom that's in the Growth Collective want to share about that? I know sometimes challenging, especially we're in a larger group here, but if I'll tell you the things that I hear the most are deals and capital. Those are, it's really the two things you need to be a real estate investor. You need deal flow and you need capital flow, right? But the question again goes back to who's providing you those things. Like, are you limiting yourself to your own ability? Like a lot of our clients, what will happen is you'll get into business as a real estate investor. And just like I did in the beginning too, like I was going to being coached on doing was like, hey, we're going to go out there and we're going to go find sellers off market just by myself. Right? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go send out mail and write up letters and do all this other stuff and hope that someone calls me back that wants me to buy their property at the right price. And then that would kind of work, but it would just get me people calling. It wouldn't get me really the results of the actual kind of deals that I wanted. Most of the time, like 98 to 99% of the time, they're just yelling at you and telling you things that you don't want to hear. It's just like really not what you want to do. And you're spending money to get yelled at basically, which is even worse. So that's not my preferred method for acquisitions. I know that there's real estate agents and there's real estate people, wholesalers and investors that are already doing those things that enjoy it. Some of you actually enjoy that stuff and that's cool. Like you get jazzed up when people scream at you. I give you a lot of credit if that's you. Like if you actually get excited when someone's like, man, why would you call me, text me, send me all these letters in the mail? Are you nuts? Like you send me 30, 40, 50 of these things every, whatever period of time. That's just not for me. Like I would rather go talk to somebody who already did all that heavy lifting, right? And then have that individual give me something that's almost maybe a deal, but maybe not a deal yet. Maybe it's missing something. Right. So we focus a lot on acquisitions from a perspective of aggregation. Aggregation means like taking a lot of deals that are presented to us, quote unquote deals, and aggregating them into a unified way of saying like, okay, if I look at this like an investor would look at it, like a buyer would look at it, where is the opportunity? So I'm going to ask you guys to kind of think about that. When you look at deals, what are some questions you're thinking about? Like if you're sitting here listening to me live, feel free to use the chat on Zoom again or on the comment feature. What are some things you think about when you look at a deal? What they think is a deal, what do you consider? How do you evaluate a deal? Right? What are some of the decision criteria? And as you're kind of thinking through some of your own, I'll give you some examples for us, right? So I'm looking at percentage of profit. If I'm looking at a fix and flip, I'm looking at a percentage of net profit. I want to know that we're north of 12, maybe even 15% on a fix and flip net profit percentage on the total cost of the project. Now that could vary. For some of you guys and gals, it might be 10%. It might be 30%. It really depends on different things. I might be looking at cash on cash, right? What's my percentage of cash on cash return? So if I'm using funding, if I'm using financing, right, I'm going to go ahead and say, well, what's my cash that I'm putting down? And then what's the cash being returned back, either on a flip or on a buy and hold? So those numbers could vary greatly. So I'm not going to give you specific ones, but I'll tell you that most people want to be in double digits in some way, shape, or form on an annual cash on cash return. If you could show a deal like we have right now, a couple of deals, one's in Winter Garden that we just put under contract. We have another one coming up in Winter Haven, Florida. We have a couple in Sarasota, like they're all in the double digits, right? They're significant cash on cash because leverage makes that possible. And the beautiful thing is that we have capital to provide to leverage. So like you don't have to think about as a TGC Growth Collective member or someone inside the Facebook group, you don't have to think about all the capital. Really, what you need to think about is about 15 to 25% of the capital is what's needed typically to put down towards the project to be able to acquire the property and renovate the property, depending upon your credit profile and depending upon what the deal looks like and depending upon where the property is located and all that kind of stuff and your experience. All right. Ilya says she liked the JV with a wholesaler or contractor to buy a small property for fix and flip, put the cash to purchase, rehab, and carry costs. Partner will be the project manager, not remotely have to be there, and would like to invest 150 for the first one. I'm sure she's going to have people reaching out to her. So I encourage you to reach out to Ilya on Facebook if you're listening to this. I would also coach Ilya without really knowing her that be conservative. What's the right word? Be careful, right? Because some people are going to say, "Oh, Ilya's got capital to put down. I'm going to go run after Ilya and hope that she could buy this deal or do this thing." And it's not necessarily for the best interest for Ilya. With all due respect for my other friends in the group, we do our best to keep this group safe. Like it's definitely the Growth Collective. We know who everybody is, literally at a detailed level, a personal level. Inside the real estate investing mastermind group, I don't have visibility to every single person on a first name basis. So please be respectful when someone posts something like that. And if you're someone posting that, just be careful that when people reach out to you, that you know how to vet them. Ilya, we can speak. There's multiple things that we have and that my clients have that could utilize what you're talking about there. So let's definitely have a conversation. Okay. Lou says a common obstacle is inventory. And of course, these rates don't help with sellers thinking COVID rates are still going, want 50, 67, you're 80 over asking. That's right. In most places, it's still a seller's market, right? Which means that they're controlling the real estate in terms of the price. So if you own property, you shouldn't have a real issue selling the property at the right price. But then again, depending upon how conservative or aggressive you were with your estimates, that could change. Rosaline says, nice. I don't know. Thank you, Rosaline. I'm not sure what that nice was too exactly, but that's okay. We appreciate you being here. Give us some context to what that was about. And then Ilya said, exactly, this is why I do this inside the REIN. So REIN's another group out there that actually we've had clients come from that group into our group. And we know people for sure that are also in that group that are not our clients, like Ilya. It's a women's run group actually for real estate investors. So definitely check out that group as well. They run multiple things, I think, throughout the month. And so you should check that out if you have some time. We also have a client, Liana, quick shout out to Liana up in Colorado, who's got a group called Crew, which is collective real estate for women. So if you're looking for a group that have women involved and you want to get connected to somebody who's one of our clients and who's doing some really exciting stuff, check out the Crew. It's C and then .R.E.W, I believe, and that's how it's shown on Facebook, the Crew group. So that's Liana Pomeroy out there. So let's see if we have any more comments here. And Growth Collective members, just going to remind you guys, this is also for you. So make sure you're utilizing the chat feature when possible if you have a question or a comment. Okay, I'm going to wait a second here to see if Facebook sometimes delayed. Yeah, I mean, pretty much economics, right? So I would say, just to kind of rewind, some of you don't know this, but I went to school for business, right? So I went to school for business and IT. And so that gives me some perspective that may not be as clear for some of you guys and gals here. So supply and demand, it's really just the most basic economic explanation. So properties are in short supply. Capital, whether you think it is or not, is in strong supply. And the demand of that capital for property is significant. So I always explain it like there's deal flow, which is kind of like supply of property. And then there's capital flow, which is basically the demand equation. That's the most simplest way that I like to explain it. And so just yesterday, I think I was in a coaching conversation and I explained that deal flow will draw capital flow to it. Or I can say another way, capital is attracted to deal flow, right? So one of the reasons why we do this, it's not a secret, I think, is because we want to let people know that we have deal flow, right? And we tell our clients inside the private coaching group and mastermind called the Growth Collective. Again, join thegrowthcollective.com. You can check it out. You get first priority to deal flow. My client can tell you that they're closing deals from it. But then the next group is going to be the real estate investing mastermind and our email list. So we have deal flow. So one of the purposes of doing these free events, free trainings every week is to let you know about deal flow, right? Because we know that if you have capital, your capital flow should be somewhat attracted to deal flow if it's a good deal. So like right now, like I said, we have a property, two properties actually in Sarasota. One's a condo, one's a townhome that are available for participation, collaboration. We have a property in Venice, which is going on the market probably later this week. We're just doing some cleanup. We're finished up painting the outside. We're putting down some additional limestone, gravel, and gonna be put on the market. One of our clients has another property in Sarasota, which don't forget, guys, you're welcome to put a comment if you'd like inside of either Facebook or wherever you'd like to put that. That's in Sarasota. That's going to be a fix and flip, which needs about 75 to 80K worth of work. Can definitely be a nice flip, but also possible rental. And then we have a property we just talked about. We put under contract, which we're closing on in a month and a half or so, I think, because it's a little bit longer for the seller. They have something going on in Winter Garden, which is a great flip. We have the details on that we could share. We also have one that we just put under contract, I think today in Winter Haven, which might already be spoken for, but we're putting out there just so you guys know it exists. So we have more stuff, and this is all Florida, right? And this is not including New Jersey stuff that's in the process of being worked on. We're kind of revamping the New Jersey wholesale side too. But all that to say the fact that like we want to provide deals to those of you that want to buy those deals, right? That's part of our responsibility. That's how we started the company in 2014 as a wholesale company. And for many months, we were closing 5, 6, 7 deals a month. And we got into a lull because of COVID. So you talk about the ugly truth, like our conversation today, the ugly truth is that we almost had to close the business during COVID, like close it down and say, see you later, have a nice day. We'll have to reinvent ourselves. I think like a lot of business owners, I'm just gonna be real, like that's part of what we faced in business, right? It's not because our business model didn't work, it's just because that put that much pressure, COVID put that much pressure on the business. And we're here still now to talk about it and share about it. And we're now on a growth phase, which is beautiful. And we're excited about that. But it's only because of people like you listening to us, and you all have to think about who your people are, who can listen to you about what you're bringing to the table, right? So your partners, your lenders, your construction people, the deal providers, like people that can collaborate at a strategic level. Who are they? Without the who's in our life, we wouldn't have a business. It's really that simple. Like, just without people, there would be no business. This isn't a digital e-commerce like selling products and just kind of hoping that someone buys them off of an e-store type of thing or eBay. You know, I did an eBay store back in college. That was my first like test of the business stuff, like in real life. I took a small loan when I was in business school that my school where I went to college provided as like a grant almost in a way. And I started an eBay store selling cell phone accessories in the early 2000s. And at that time, there was a lot of people selling cell phone accessories. That was like a thing before like they started putting them into the actual cell phone stores. And I was buying stuff wholesale, right? Quick story for everybody. I was buying stuff from China in bulk, and then I would sell them in lots to who? To distributors. Wait a second. That sounds a little bit like wholesale and real estate, except we're talking about deals that are on property, not cell phone accessories that are like, you know, $1 or $2 a piece. So I got that experience of learning how to deal with economics and the supply chain. And then I went on to go to J&J and I worked in procurement, which is also buying stuff from suppliers and vendors and figuring out how to utilize those services and ultimately grow, you know, the relationship with the supplier for the sake of the company so that we get better deals and negotiate better contracts and save money, all that kind of stuff. But I'm saying all that because you got to take inventory. So like if you feel stuck right now, which I mean, you don't have to put it as a comment, but you can shoot me a DM if somebody feels stuck. I think you probably, you know, are here for some kind of specific reason. You're still listening to me after 25 minutes, which we have a couple dozen folks in the room on Facebook and what a half a dozen, almost a dozen in the room here. So thank you guys for being here, but you might feel stuck, right? I've been there. We have certain things right now that are stuck. We have certain deals that are stuck in certain phases. And the responsibility of the business owner is to find ways to unstuck it, right? To what's the word? Well, I'm not going to say it, but there's other ways of saying that, but undo, I guess, or figure out how to get through a challenge, unbottleneck or debottleneck it. I don't know what the right word is. I can't think of it today. Figure out a way to resolve it, figure out a solution. Okay. So, but if you never charted that territory, if it's uncharted, if you haven't crossed that path, if you haven't had strain in that way, you might not know where to start to figure out the solution. But that's where I go like this again. We're here to help. And we're also, myself, my staff, my leadership, and my whole company and my clients, right? We're all working on growth every single day. I'm not going to share the exact site because I didn't ask permission, but there's a site that was just shared, for example, in our 12 o'clock call that's massively valuable. That if you're a part of the Growth Collective, Glenn and Jenny just shared it, and they just put also a post inside of Jenny just put a post inside of Facebook. So Sarasota single family property 3-2-17-15 total renovation potential 2-1-1-1 split. So what that basically is a home that's single family that could be a duplex potentially. But not only that, there's also, tens of thousands of dollars of profit in that deal, and it's going to be listed in the next day or two, I think they said. So, talk to them today if you have interest in that deal, but it's a good deal, right? And then we have some deals too, but that doesn't matter. Like, I'm happy to share that. Even if they weren't my client, I'd be happy to share the information because I know that by adding value to them with my community, naturally it's going to work itself out where they're going to find ways to add value back to me. I'm going to give help and value, and that value is going to be returned either by them or by God, just by God, by the nature of what it is. Literally, we're sitting there in a meeting, we're talking about this, and then they get a text message from somebody that was at the RIA. It was so funny. I asked the question. I had nothing to do with it. I'm not touching my phone, not touching a computer. And then somebody texts Jenny that they're interested because they presented it yesterday at the RIA of like 100 people. Hey, I have an investor who's all cash, might want to make an offer. We'll be in touch. They're like, whoa. I'm like, what's going before that happened? I'm like, what's going on with the property you presented yesterday? And then next thing you know, there's a text. So just God works in mysterious ways. Like, I have nothing to do with it. It's just the way it is. And so just trust that there's going to be amazing things if you focus on the right stuff. It might take time. I forget who said this was on a social media thing I saw. It was something basically along the lines of trust the process. He was like saying that, the gentleman was talking about how basically, in life you have vision. We all have, and Lenny and Jen has talked about a vision too, but we have dreams, we have vision, we have ambition. And we see that sometimes very clearly what we want our life to look like, but we don't know why it feels so difficult in the midst of it. But the thing is, and it's said by many people, not just me, that is called preparation. That's preparation. I find that the more difficult something is, the bigger that the actual vision will come to be, because God's preparing you for that amazing thing that's ahead of you that you don't know how to get to that place where, it seems so far-fetched to think about that big idea, that big vision actually come into reality. But the fact is, the trials and tribulations, the things you're facing challenges with right now are part of that story. They're part of God's preparation for you to be prepared for that bigger thing. The stuff with the fund, for example. So my involvement in the fund that I'm a managing partner of came very organically. It wasn't something that I was seeking to look for. I wasn't saying like, hey, who has a fund that I could jump into and help create, additional value for and raise money for and help grow strategically. No, it was in conversation. And the thing is, I wouldn't be as prepared for that opportunity if I didn't go through the process of being a part of another fund previously, or if I didn't go through renovations, dozens of renovations, and understand construction, understand fixing and flipping, and going to do hundreds of deals as a company and growing businesses and dealing with cash flow challenges and good things and bad things and all that stuff. I wouldn't be as prepared. And I've had many days, and I'm not afraid to tell you guys, where I've said, why is this so difficult? But you know why it is? Because God was preparing me, and he's still preparing me for something bigger than that, whatever that is, right? The Growth Collective is another example. It came out of an organic idea of taking the mentorship that I was doing one-to-one and in some small groups and finding a way to give people an outcome-based coaching program, not just like a theory, an idea, an educational platform. Like, that's not what we do. We focus on getting our clients outcomes. So the outcome I have is to help you close your next deal in 90 days or less, guaranteed. And if you don't, but if we can't help you do that, we'll continue to support and serve you in every way possible until you do. So again, if that sounds interesting, then by all means, go to jointhegrowthcollective.com. You'll learn more about how that works. I got a 5-minute long video, a couple of testimonials. You can click on a button, schedule some time, and then we can have a conversation. But the fact is, whether it's the Growth Collective or some other group you're part of or somebody else, you have to have, and this is me too, right? I'm part of multiple mastermind groups. I've been through in the past, like 6 to 12 months, everybody, just so we're clear on the same page. I personally have invested probably over $50,000, maybe even close to $100,000 of our company's profit back into education, growth, coaching, masterminds, et cetera, for many different things, not just like one thing. Why? Because if I don't, what's going to happen is I get stagnant. Do you remember what COVID felt like when it first happened? It was actually Friday the 13th. You guys remember Friday the 13th of 2020? I'm sitting in New Jersey, and literally they announced that we're shutting down the state. Like it's a state of emergency. There's a pandemic, and we all might die. Like that's basically what it was on the news. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that's pretty much what it was. And meanwhile, for the first 3 months, we were having a trajectory of where we were going to break free like 100K a month as a wholesale company consistently. And we had just come up with a business model to help even maximize that further. And here we are, boom, the brakes are put on big time. And then we have our landlord, I'm not going to say who it was. You guys could probably figure out if you really want to, asking me to pay rent during the pandemic. I'm like, we're not even making any business happen. How could you expect this landlord in business, not like personal landlord? I'm talking about business landlord, like the company's office, right? And meanwhile, we can't even go into the office. There's no leniency. It's like, if you don't make a rent payment, we're going to evict you out of this space that you're in that I'm not even able to utilize because of the state of emergency. I'm like, this sounds ridiculous. Like this is the kind of stuff that business owners had to deal with in the state of New Jersey. And I know I have people here in the state of New Jersey who could probably relate to exactly, and probably other states, I'm sure. But the amount of pressure, and then what do you know? Monday. What was Monday? Monday was March 16th, 3:16, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, Jesus Christ. Like, I am not making this stuff up. Like, that was the day. It was Friday the 13th and then 3:16. If that doesn't say a lot about the spiritual warfare that's happened in the world, that's happened and happening, then I don't know what does. But the fact is, this is crazy when you think about this stuff and you start thinking about what is God trying to tell me to do about this? Like, what is my calling? And we didn't know for a minute. Me and my friend who was my head of operations at the time, Rich, and who still works with us now, we're like, we don't have an office. We can't go into the office. We still have it actually. We can't use the office. Our team is all virtual. Nobody wants to work because everyone's getting basically given government funds to not have to work, which is whatever. I'm not taking an opinion about that. I'm just saying that that's what it was. And now like our business model that just had made us a bunch of money in the first part of 2020 is completely not possible because townships are shut down. And this is what's happening. So now we had to say, what are we going to do? So for a minute, we just took a break. We said, let's just take a step back and reevaluate. But you know what we did though, is we continued to honor the agreements that we made. So when we had purchasing of property, and this is another ugly truth I'll share with you guys that I've seen too many of these things not go this way. When you agree to buy a property and it's in a contract, you have a responsibility to buy the property that you just agreed to buy. So it may not be ideal. It may be, a problem. It may be not as profitable, whatever the case is, but don't be the person that goes out there, agrees to buy the property and then doesn't close on a property, or at least if you have a reason to navigate through a negotiation, then by all means do that. But don't be the investor or person that agrees to buy this property, buyer, however you want to think of it, and then not perform with no good reason not to perform. You have to have some idea of the reason why. So we actually honored those contracts. We had to get some extensions. I don't know if you guys, I think some of you listening to me right now were probably in this mode during COVID. If you guys were, let me know. Yes, COVID affected us, just however you want to say that. But lenders were not lending in March, April, and May of 2020. Like pretty much the whole world stopped with funding, except for like two groups that we had connection with, which we used to close a handful of deals. And then after all that, everybody, we then decided that we're going to go ahead and try to do the construction. And what happened was we couldn't get permits pulled. We couldn't get construction completed. We couldn't get things done because townships were closed and some of them were not working at all, let alone some of them were working part-time, but nobody ever answered the phone. So that pushed things back even further and further and further. So delays and more delays. And what does delays mean? When you have financing, you have additional costs. So construction projects were pushed out many months, in some cases more than many months, and pushed out and pushed out. And it's not because we wanted them to be, it's because we had no other option at that time because nobody was doing real estate the way that we were. And that, well, not to say nobody, but many people, right, stopped. Few people still did, but we wanted to honor the agreements and we saw the potential at the end of it. We just didn't know how we're going to get there yet. So fast forward to now, we went through all those projects except for one that still is being worked on, which is crazy, but it is. I'm not going to share the specific details, but it is still in process. It will still be profitable. It's actually be probably more profitable than we thought it would be when we first bought it. But I'm proud of that because we went out of a very, very challenging situation. And I say we were building an oak tree. Right? Like we're not planting an oak tree, I guess. Building is it's not really building, I guess. But you're digging a massive hole to plant a huge tree. Like if you think about it, right? And this is something I want you all to think about for you and your business today, like in 2023. What kind of tree are you looking to grow? And your tree represents your business, right? I think, fruit trees are awesome. Like, I don't think we have any in our yard, but one of my friends just told me he has a bunch of fruit trees, but they're a little bit, they provide fruit. You could take the fruit and eat it. You could sell the fruit. You could do whatever you want, but it's not as strong as like a tree that has a massive, like an oak tree, like a redwood. Imagine like a redwood tree. But think about how big of a hole if you were to take a redwood that was already somewhat grown, like you're buying it from the landscaping place. How big of a hole would you have to dig to plant that redwood that's already a few years old that you want to get to be even bigger? You have to build a pretty big hole versus like, let's say, I don't know, an apple tree. You could put an apple seed. I think you could put an apple seed in the ground and put a hole like this big, and it's going to grow an apple tree eventually. So it's going to take longer and it's going to be a little more flimsy. So the question is, are you looking to plant an apple tree that's going to provide some fruit, or do you want to pick another tree besides an oak if you don't like oak or redwood that's going to have solidarity and strength and grow on an ongoing basis for many years, if not decades and centuries? See, like I want to build and grow a tree, a business that has the ability to provide all the things that it provides for decades and centuries, not just like a couple of years or some fruit that I can harvest off of that one tree and that might fall over when there's a hurricane, no pun intended if I live in Florida. Okay. But the fact is, when you think about what you're doing to plant the tree you're looking to plant called your real estate investing business, are you planting the tree in fertile ground? That's another biblical scripture, right? Which I'm sure you guys could quote if you'd like to, but is the seed gonna fall on fertile ground or is it gonna fall on rocky ground? Are you gonna put a big enough hole and are you gonna water it? What are you doing to water it every day? Or are you even watering it at all? Are you watering it once a week? Are you watering it once a day? How many times a day can you water it? How much water is that tree seed absorbing? How much of a tree is building out of the ground yet? You might feel like your dirt just all over the place. Like you just built this hole, you put the seed, and then you're like, nothing's happening after days, weeks, months, or years. You're like, Doug, that's why I'm here, because I feel like I'm just digging and digging and digging and nothing's coming out of the ground yet. Well, it's because you keep on digging. Check this out. If you keep digging in the dirt and making a bigger hole for a really tiny seed, you don't put the dirt back on top of the seed, you don't properly fertilize it, you don't put water in it, you don't give it sunlight, it's never going to grow. You know what? That little, what do they call that when it comes out of the ground? Little sprout? Is that the sprout? Is that the right term? Sprout? A sprout is like the first glimpse of closing a deal as a real estate investor. Like that's a sprout. And you know what happens? Once that comes out of the ground, it's like the tree has seen the light officially, like it's come out of the dirt. Inside the dirt, like that thing's working to grow. It's like a baby in the womb. Like a mother has to carry a baby for 9 months. I give my wife so much credit. God bless my wife and our children. My one child is sitting right next to me here in London. She's sitting here. She's 9. She's like the lifeline for the company. She was born 3 weeks before we started the company. But the fact is, 9+ months inside the womb, a child, a human being, right? Animals have all different things, but human beings, 9 months of that incubation, if you would, to come out and be a beautiful living person, right? Like things take time. So the question I ask you today, and I know it's kind of quiet on Facebook right now, at least I don't see the comments, is number one, how big is the hole that you've dug for your business? In other words, the hole, like this is weird, but the hole usually has like digging yourself into a hole has a very negative connotation, right? But what kind of investments of time, money, and other resources have you made? If it's zero or very little, that says a lot probably right off the bat. And I think I talked about this last week too. Like a lot of folks that I work with, inside the coaching group, and most of the clients now are not like this. Just so you guys, let's say I have worked with to make it more relevant, because I want to make sure it's nothing personal. Like you guys are awesome, the folks in the Zoom, and on Facebook as well. But I'll tell you, I've worked with too many people that want this massive oak redwood type tree, but they're only planting like a little seed for like basil. And they're like, why is my basil plant not looking like a redwood? Well, because you didn't plant the big enough tree. You didn't use the right seeds. You're doing this like the wrong way. You got to think of how much dirt do I need? How much water I need? That's called strategy. Then you got to dig the hole, which means you got to make some investments. You got to make some room for the stuff to happen. Then you got to take care of this seedling, that's what it's called, and then nurture it for a period of time. And it takes patience. So a lot of what I coach on actually is around properly strategizing, right? Properly planting this seed of real estate investing, properly nurturing that seed in that business, that growth, and then getting the right resources. Like, let me help you provide the right kind of water. Let me help you provide the right kind of seed. Let me help you provide the right kind of fertilizer. Let me talk about the time of day and the days of the week to plant it or to water it, to let the sun hit it, how, where, that's what we've learned from planting a lot of seeds as a real estate investment company. Okay. I hope you guys get that. So check in and say, how big is the hole you've been digging? Is it small? You're going to have a small tree. If you're willing to dig a bigger hole and you're willing to be patient, I'm telling you right now, you might not see a whole lot on the surface, but beneath that surface, the root system is building out pretty large, right? We lived through that. We've come out of the dirt, so to speak, in our business in a big way, right? But it was very challenging in that dirt. Like we see nothing was happening. We're like, what's going on? Like this thing's taking forever. And we're like, what's going on here? So, and there are other parts of the business that are still being planted. Seeds are being planted. Phil must hear his ears ringing. He doesn't know I'm on a live right now. Phil's trying to hit me up on our system here. So if anyone on the JDL team could just hit up Phil directly, let him know I'm currently in a meeting and I want to talk with him, but I can't right now. He's welcome to join the Zoom if he wants, or welcome to join on Facebook. So look at that, right? Make sure there's congruence. Here's the ugly truth again, that many of you listening to me have either before or currently now, again, not digging enough of a hole, planting the wrong kind of seed, not properly taking care of that seed, and you're saying, why isn't the tree growing? Well, you just answered your own question. If you listen to what I just said, I just answered it for you. So my intention with the Growth Collective and with this group also, but join the growthcollective.com is the website. Jointhegrowthcollective.com. Check it out. Is to help you figure out how big of a hole, in what kind of soil, how close to whatever else you got going on in your garden or your yard or whatever you want to call it, what kind of seed we want to plant, put that soil back with some fertilizer, get some water. Maybe I'll help you provide some water called capital, or some resources called connections, called deals, etc. And let's start growing some trees, or a tree, So that's a fact. But the fact is, unfortunately, many of you listen to me are like, yeah, whatever. It's just like some weird analogy that he's talking about. Like, this ain't going to work. Like, okay, then why are you still here then? Like, really, like, why are you still listening? Because really, if you felt like you had it all sorted out, which respectfully, I don't mean to sound like an arrogant person. I'm saying it, I'm just telling you to wake you up a little bit. Why haven't you gotten the kind of success that you deserve if this isn't something that you think is relevant? Because frankly, you may not need to be here right now if you feel like you've already got what you need. Like, that's a kind of graduation. Like, you don't need to be a part of that experience and the real estate investing mastermind. You don't need that. We got to think differently. Quick shout out to my buddy Kyle Newell. Check out kylenewell.com. Okay. It's called the Growth Collective. That's right. We got to grow, right? But Kyle, that's what Jenny and Glenn are saying. So Kyle Newell, kylenewell.com. Kyle has opened up my mind over many years, being his friend and then doing some business together and having him coach some of our clients, and also helping him and see what he's doing now with his coaching, which is pretty awesome. He focuses on, personal fitness, but also like mental toughness and mental fitness and all kinds of cool stuff. But the thing is, he's got a thing called Panda, right? So Panda is like his brand, Panda Man. So what he says though is it's pretty much black and white. Like, it's not gray. And this is tricky in today's day and age. Do you guys agree? I mean, it's really tough because everything's about, well, this is okay and that's okay. And I'm not going to take any political opinions here or make any statements that might offend somebody. But the fact is, let's just be okay talking real. Like, certain things are just not okay. If you believe in certain things, it's okay to stand up and say, I believe in this. That's called freedom of speech and freedom of rights to believe in certain stuff. Look, if you want it, it's okay to talk about it. Like, it's not okay not to talk about it. Like, if you want to be successful, people need to know that. So don't feel muffled. It's like, if you want this, then you want this. If you don't want this, you don't want this. Just say, yes, I'd like this. No, I don't want that. It's really just black and white. But another principle is be unconventional. Like on the back of his shirt that I had on yesterday, actually, it said, be unconventional. 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 I said, Joe was kind of mocking me on something I forgot what, unbottleneck, de-bottleneck it, whatever. But unconventional thinking, unconventional behavior yields unconventional results, like not typical. If you want to be atypical, which the typical probably isn't what most people here listening to me want to be. You don't want to be typical and average. You want to be above that. If that's what you want, then why do your actions show otherwise? If you want to be atypical, why do your actions show otherwise? Let's sit in for a second. As a real estate investor, you want deals? Just do what everybody else does. No, don't do what everybody else does. Do what everybody else is not doing. If you're looking to get the result that most people don't get, then do what other people are not doing. It's called going against the grain a little bit, right? Be unconventional. If you need capital, hey, Doug, I only have this much in my bank account right now. I can't buy property. That's the conventional thinking. Unconventional says, who has capital that I could leverage that would get some benefit from me doing that and could get their head behind the deal that I'm going to do here because they're going to get value. That's unconventional, right? Deal structuring in general, be unconventional. Why not think about playing the quarterback position versus the running back? Like if you don't want to get hit by the linebackers, right? If you don't want to be the guy like I was, power forward center, getting elbowed in the face, bleeding on my face from a guy that I was actually friends with. We played AAU basketball, but one game in our school teams, he elbowed me right in my cheek and bled, and my sister screamed and stuff like that. It was nuts. Remember that distinctly. I'll never forget that moment. But if you don't want to be the guy getting elbowed in the face in a basketball game or breaking your ankle or messing up your foot or messing up your knee or whatever you're going to do in whatever sport, playing hockey, pick a sport, then don't play that position. Like it's pretty simple. Don't play the position. Don't do MMA if you don't want to have a bloodbath. If you get in a fight with somebody that's better than you are, like just pick a different sport, right? Maybe play tennis or pickleball. I actually happen to enjoy pickleball, but it's a new sport for me. London and my two sons make fun of me sometimes, but it's actually a lot of fun. But check it out. What does that mean in our business is like, don't play the position of having to call people on the phone if you don't enjoy speaking to people on the phone. Don't play the position of having to do the marketing for your business if you've never done marketing for anything else before. Why would you play a position you never played before? You want to be the amateur or do you want to be the pro? Like, but check it out. You know, the simplest position to play, which is ironic because in the football, you guys are going to yell at me if you guys like football, because I know the quarterback is like the guy that or gal that, I guess usually guys, but sometimes I guess depending what age group we're talking about. NFL here, it's men, right? It's all men, I think, NFL. So you're going to talk about throwing the ball, picking the strategy, running the plays. Like that's a lot of responsibility, but maybe make the investment on learning how to be a great quarterback in your real estate investment business versus being the guy or gal that's running the ball every time. Because how many times does a great quarterback just run the ball across the line? Usually not often, unless they can't find a person to pass to. How many times does the center, take a 3-point shot in basketball? Their coach, like he used to yell at me, my coach might be in this group actually, Coach D'Alessandro up in Somerville. What's up, coach? If you're hearing me, anybody that knows him, he's a great guy. He's retired now, I think I saw, but he was definitely an influence in my life because he would say, do that. Like, what are you doing? Then sometimes when I would go through the hoop, he'd be like, all right, good job. Like it's great. But don't be the person playing that position and then stepping out of your position to try to be something that you're not. Just play the position that you're called to play. So, and if you don't know a position to play, hey, again, have a conversation. Join the growthcollective.com. DM me, right? Hey, Doug, here's where I'm at. I've been doing this with real estate for a little while. I don't know, like if I'm playing the right position, what I'm trying to do here is this, but I don't really know why it's not working. Check it out. You want to know the real secret? Here's the thing. Real estate investing and really any business is not an I sport. There is no I this and I that. It's a we. We do this. It's a team sport. So the question is, who's on your team? The question is it just you? Is it you and your significant other? Is it you, your significant other, and some other people that are good contacts for you in your business, et cetera, et cetera. But pick it out. A great team has what? A great team has an awesome and even better coach usually, right? So if you need a coach, you're ready to play the game, or you are playing the game, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I'd love the job. I'd love to take that responsibility to be your coach. Again, join the growthcollective.com. Let me coach you to your fullest potential. I know there's so much potential sitting in this Facebook group and inside of our Growth Collective community, like that you guys just don't even realize because you haven't seen the unknown. You don't know what you don't know yet, but I know it because I've lived it. I still live through it. I see it every day. I see my own businesses, our businesses, and the people I help coach businesses growing. And it's like, well, if only fill in the blank, if only they knew this, if only they did that, if only they thought about this instead of that, if only they looked at it this other way, then I know they would have that. Like, that's the most frustrating part. Like when the coach, like my coaches used to yell, "Where were you? Why aren't you, playing defense?" Like that creates momentum though for the player because he's like, you know what? My coach is screaming at the sidelines, looking like a tomato in his face. I could say that now. If I would probably get thrown off the team if I said that to him when I was playing basketball. But he will scream because why? He's got passion. So you know what? If my clients want to know where some of my passions come from, one of the reasons, the most important, is sitting right next to me, plus two more, and my wife. Those are the most, and my God also, but my children here on earth, like I am motivated by them every day. But also my parents, my father, my mother, God rest her soul. My dad's still alive. He's in Florida right now, actually visiting his house in Kissimmee. But also after that, you know where it comes from? My coaches. I've been a competitive athlete my whole life. And I still consider myself to be an athlete. I'm not in the perfect shape, but I think I'm in pretty good shape for my age, and I'm continuing to get in better shape because I care about myself, not just going to the gym, lifting heavy weights, actually taking care of my body, taking care of my mind. But it comes from a place of coaching. See, I made investments as a kid. See, it's a different kind of investment, an investment of feeling crappy, an investment of getting yelled at on the court or on the field or screamed at in the gym as I'm lifting weights. That takes a lot to deal with that, but it actually shaped me to be stronger as a player, but ultimately grow to become a coach. So like my calling is to coach. I know that because I've coached my kids' sports, I coach my clients, and I look to coach you guys listening to this message, wherever you're hearing this, inside the Facebook group or somewhere else. But a coach can only really coach if he has a team to coach. So I look at the Growth Collective as kind of a team. And I get excited about the team we have because we have a pretty solid group of people in the Growth Collective right now that are doing some amazing things. We also have a group of people in a team, quote unquote, in the real estate investing mastermind Facebook group. But I'm honored to be a coach in some capacity for you. But the question is, how often do you listen to your coach? How many times are you going to practice? Okay, tell you something. There's a correlation in sports, and sports is a great analogy to use in your life to compare to things that might be happening outside of sports. Because it's very dynamic. Collaboration, playing as a team, taking responsibility, having discipline, focus, all that kind of stuff, being aware of where things are, the ball, whatever you're doing, your teammates. Question is, how many times are you practicing the sport? If you want to play at the highest level, I'm sure you've heard the analogy of Michael Jordan, how many times he took free throws in his practice, how many times you go to the gym to shooting free throws. Sure, just not just free throws, but everything. He would also dribble. He'd have the ball, but I'm like, I was the kid literally carrying the basketball everywhere I went. My sister's basketball games, other stuff, my friends' houses, like just dribbling the ball, bringing the ball, like constantly touching a basketball because I wanted to practice to get better and better. So the question is, as a real estate investor, how do we practice? How do we practice as a real estate investor? We have to take action. See, practice means doing something. So if you're not doing anything, hey, you know what? I'm here for you, but you're not really practicing the sport or the game or the business of real estate investing. So sourcing deals, number one. Number two, analyzing some of those deals. Sourcing means getting information about opportunities, analyzing those opportunities, knowing how to do that. Runyournumbers.com. Great resource, free. A paid version you can get to do some additional stuff, but free. Being prepared to make the offer. Man, that gets scary for a lot of people, making an offer. You know what? That's the ultimate type of practice, if you ask me. It's like taking a free throw, though, for a lot of people, because they're just like, whatever, nobody's bothering me. I'm just going to shoot the ball. Some people, it feels like taking a half court shot, though. If you follow the basketball analogy, it might be like, wow, I'm just throwing the ball, offering. No. It's a free throw. If you planned correctly, if you sourced a deal, analyze the deal correctly, and you know what the number needs to be, it's a free throw. It's a layup, actually. But let's go from making it feel like a half court shot, everybody, to being a layup. And the only difference is that we can't control the size of the hoop in this analogy. We can't control if that hoop gets bigger or smaller. We're just putting the ball right on the backboard where it needs to go in that box, in that layup analogy. And we're laying it up into the box, and we're hoping that the other side, which is the seller, controls the size of the hoop, says let it go through the hoop. But it's not up to you to determine whether it goes through the hoop or not. You got to give it up. You got to let it lay up. Okay. And then we move into contracts. Man, contracts feels like this is scary now. We're doing legal stuff. We better do this right. Yeah, that's why we have attorneys and title companies, other people that can advise us about contracts and terms. We coach on stuff like that too, but I can't tell you because you have to decide what you feel comfortable signing to on a contract. But I can advise about what it is that you're seeing and understand the business and legal ramifications if you look into certain ways. But if you don't have somebody helping coach you through that, maybe you feel stuck there. But that's practice. Getting properties under contract. It's a really good kind of practice. That's like you're about to win the game in that deal. If the game was the deal, you're about to win it. You just won it if they accept it and you sign the contract. But check it out. The actual game isn't over. The horn doesn't go until the closing. Closing is the end of the game. But it's actually just the beginning of the season, though. Because that game is just one game. And then you have a series. You're in the playoffs. Now you're going to the next game. You're going to win the game by doing the next thing in that project, whether it be keeping as a rental, fixing up, etc. Okay. Where I'm going with this is how many of those things are you actually doing? I mean, you're not going to put it into the comments, but I know for a fact that even us, we're ramping things up. We're not doing enough. We are not practicing enough. We're not playing the game enough. When is it enough? I don't know if there's ever such a thing as enough. If you're in growth mode, is it ever enough? It's not about greed. It's just about growth. It's different. Greed is not the same thing as growth. Growth means doing more for the better good. Yourself, your community, your family. Like I just heard an awesome vision from Jen and Glennie. Shout out to them again. Some amazing stuff they're going to be doing for their community and their what they believe in and really connecting real estate investing to their faith and their values. Like that's so cool. But that's not because they're greedy. They want to buy more property. No, they want to help create more beautiful experiences for people that are going to use those properties, how they're going to use them. Like that's cool. That's exciting. That's powerful. So that's purpose. So the other question is, I'll leave you with today is, why are you even playing the game? Why are you playing the game called real estate investing? If you don't know the answer to that question, then again, you got to get clarity on that and we can help you do that. If you don't have a purpose behind what you're doing, if you don't have passion behind what you're doing, then don't play the game. Don't play the sport. Just pick another sport. It might sound lately like I'm on this rant, like I'm just telling you not to do stuff. That's not my intention, everybody. I'm just trying to help you understand. We got to create distinction. It's either yes or it's a no. It's not a maybe, kind of, sort of. You got to be clear, right? Get clarity through deciding. Deciding, like Kyle says, I think Latin is like to sever any other possibility. When I decided to play basketball, there is no other possibility for me not to play. In fact, by not playing as often, I feel like I'm lacking right now. I need to play more basketball. I need to play more sports. I need to get to the gym more because it's part of who I am. It's part of what I'm passionate about. So what is real estate investing for you? Are you passionate about it or are you just kind of winging it? Don't wing it. Be passionate, period. That's my thoughts for today. You know, ugly truth is get some passion, get some conviction, get some yes or no in your life as a real estate investor. Figure out the size of that tree you're trying to plant. Is it a little flower type thing, or is it a massive redwood? And are you playing a sport or are you just kind of do it on as a hobby? And it's all good. Like you could be on a hobby, but don't expect the results of competitive Division I, whatever sport you like, if you're just kind of shooting around once in a while with your friends outside, you know? All right. All right, everybody. With that being said, God bless you guys. Join thegrowthwither.com to learn more about how we can add value to you in your real estate investment business. Nothing but love, and I'll talk to you real soon. See you next week. Goodbye.